So how do we start to do things in a different way? Welcome all. Thank you for being here. Some new faces, which is great. We'll introduce ourselves as we go. Please do have your mics on and cameras on if you can, and just we'll create some chat. A little bit about me if you don't know me. I am the author of the Change Ninja book series. I say series because there is a third one underway, just about started. The first one is based in the workplace. It's based on my experience of leading change in the health service and getting it wrong and telling you, well, not telling you, it's a choose your own adventure book, so you get to decide what happens in the book, but sort of guiding you towards what not to do based on what I did and getting it wrong. So I'm sharing my learning with you in a choose your own way. The second book is based on change, still with more change tools, but more emotional change. So things that will impact on you, much harder to manage when it's going to have an impact on you. So it's a much more personal story, but again, it's based on a real story and is gamified. I have the 4-day ninja challenge if you want to know more and come and actually become a black belt ninja. I've got one place left for my course starting next Thursday if anyone's interested. But if it is something of interest, just get in touch and I can send you information. And I also have a retreat if you want to really work on yourself and making big changes happen. So again, just please get in touch after this, LinkedIn, whatever it is. Do contact me and pop time in my diary. So new habits, and but it's about any change that you want to make. So as I say, if it's changing how you run your team meetings, if it's making sure you have a lunch break, whatever it is, this will work for it. It's really hard to form new habits. We've all tried it, done it, failed many, many times. Part of that is because you can't break old habits. So if you already have a habit of doing something, you can't break it. And that's why abstinence is a really tough one to achieve if you're trying to give up drinking, for example, giving up smoking, giving up the biscuits, whatever it is. You can do it that way, but it's really, really difficult and most people fail. The reason you can't break it is because the neural pathway is already embedded in your brain. So your brain doesn't like to use energy and therefore it automates as much as possible. If your habit is to reach for the biscuit barrel with your morning coffee, your brain does it without you thinking about it. And you can't break that. You can't remove that wiring. So that's why it's hard to really stop doing something if that's your way of trying to change a habit. The way to do it is to create a new habit that has a stronger neural pathway which will replace it. So instead of reaching for the biscuit barrel, we start to reach for the fruit bowl. And after time, if you follow this process today, you'll find that you automatically reach for the apple or the banana rather than the biscuit, because you've created a much stronger neural connection that's stronger than the old one, and your brain does it automatically. Your brain wants to save as much energy as possible, and so it automates as much as possible. Have a carrot cake instead, brilliant. Yes, so it wants to automate because automation means less energy. And that's how you bring on. So it's that kind of, you'll quite often find yourself in some place and you get there on autopilot because your brain hasn't made, it's just got there without using processing. It's just automated it. And that saves energy because thinking about things uses energy. So don't, if you've done abstinence and it works, that's great, you know, but it's a much harder way to do it. And that's why a lot of people fail to give up smoking and things like that. It's really hard to stop the thing. It's better to replace it with something else. So whatever it is you're trying to replace or do differently or stop doing, think about what you might replace it with if it's a stop doing something. So I always start with hopes and fears. If you've been to my session, you're here for 40 minutes. It's your time. I want to make it valuable. So what are your greatest hopes for today? If you could go away with anything, what would it be? And anything you don't want me to do, any fears that anybody's got. And I'm just going to ask you to shout out when you are ready. What is your greatest hope for today and what fears, if any, do you have? And don't be shy.
I'll shout out. I think my hope is that I'm just going to get some new ideas and inspiration to face into some long-standing challenges and a different way of attacking things.
Brilliant. Thank you, Helen.
I'm hoping, Annie, that the bad habits I've got myself into over Christmas that I can't seem to break. I was doing well before Christmas, and now I'm still eating those biscuits and chocolates and cake, and I've got a sweet tooth back which I haven't had for years, and I'm trying to say all the right things to myself, and I would love to.
It's really hard to stop, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even though you know it's wrong, it's hard to stop because your brain's made the decision to do it without you thinking about it. So then you have to force it to change its mind, which requires energy, and it doesn't like that. Brilliant, thanks, Sarah.
So I'd like to focus more on doing rather than thinking about doing.
Oh, brilliant. So if you've got something in mind, do it as we go. Any fears? Not to implement. Well, Bogdan, how are you going to, well, in fact, I'll come to that in a minute. I'm going to ask you that question again in a minute. Any other fears?
It's not going to be a good use of my time.
Not good use of your time. Okay.
I was going to say that things that I always worry that I'm not gonna get it, that it's going to go over my head.
Okay. Brilliant. So, and if there's anything else, just shout them out as we go. But fear of not implementing it. So the best way you can use today's session to get something, it's not good use of time, is to actually have something that you want to change right now and work on it as we go, because then you'll have an output at the end of it. You might want to hone it a little bit and refine it a little bit, but have a go. Have something that you want to change just now and switch up. It will be quite simple. I'm going to tell you a really simple story about feet. So hopefully it won't go over your head, but we'll check that at the end. Hope Sam, we want some new ideas, inspiration for doing things differently, try and get rid of some bad habits and actually do it rather than just sitting and listening and doing it. So again, if you work alongside it as we go along, you'll get something out of it. Distractions, try and just shut your email down. You cannot multitask. It's impossible. What anyone tells you, brain can't be doing two things at once. It's just distracted. So if you can switch things off, that would be great. Hopes and fears. If we get rid of the fears first, you might be paying more attention because you're not thinking about the thing that you're worried about. So you're not thinking, am I sitting thinking, I don't think I'm going to understand this. I don't think I'm going to understand this. You're detracting yourself from engaging. So always get rid of the fears and hopes, turn them into an agenda. So we'll get some inspiration. We'll start to work on some bad habits and replace them. And we'll start to do some doing for new habits and changing things. Does that sound okay as an agenda for everybody? So this is your first tool. If you do nothing else, I say this every time, do this at the start of a meeting, whether it's one-to-one or a team meeting or a stakeholder reference group. Do this. They'll think you're a bit weird when you first do it. Have a fear yourself that you think they'll think you're a bit weird for doing it. But honestly, if you get rid of the fears, people will start to be honest and you can deal with the things that people are thinking about. And when you get rid of them and they know it's safe to say, then they'll much more likely engage in the session, the meeting, whatever it is. If you then ask people's hopes and you turn those hopes into the agenda for today, they're not going to say anything that you hadn't thought of, or it's unlikely. And if they do, it's because you've missed it. You know, I'm not coming in here thinking, oh, you've given me a load of hopes and I'm not going to be able to deliver them, because I've thought about what I'm doing and what you all want from it. But it means you're also bought into it because it's your agenda. So it starts to align everybody around the agenda, which means you get much better engagement, much better use of time. So please do try this. They will think you're weird when you first do it, but ninjas have to face that and get through the weird thing. So habits then. Has anyone got any that they want to form, a change or anything they're trying to stop doing, or anything you've failed at already? Sarah's sort of already shared hers about eating biscuits post-Christmas. Anyone else got anything that they'd like to share?
Mine's an ongoing one, which may be actually me putting my hand up and jumping in is a sign that it's not always working, but I'm trying to get better at sitting and letting other people talk. So I don't know whether it's a good or bad thing.
That's a great one. So I'm going to come back to that at the end and see what we can do about that. Anyone else? Has anyone got the gym thing and they've already given up? Or the dry January? Who's doing dry January?
Oh yeah, I'm dry January.
How's it going?
All right. Yeah, still going.
Are you counting down the days till the 1st of February?
No, not really. I'm trying to stay off it a bit more than not, to be honest. It's just it's one of those things, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant. Anyone else? Anyone wanting to change anything at work, or make sure you get a lunch break every day, or brilliant. You stay up for the dry March, by which time you've drunk all the good wine and he's left with the crud. All the cheap prosecco that everyone bought round at Christmas. Just leave that for him. Love it. Right. So if you've got something, it will help if you work alongside me. I'm going to tell you a story. It's hopefully not too personal, but I have had flat feet my entire life, which has caused me quite a lot of issues, going over on my ankles, joint pains, knock knees, all of that. So I've had orthotics in my shoes all my life, and they have to change them every 3 or 4 years. And they get higher and higher, and the shoes get clunkier and clunkier. Brilliant, Manjula, that's a good one. So we'll get you doing your daily lunchtime walk. And I was telling somebody this because it restricted the kind of shoe wear I could wear, because these orthotic things are really big and clunky. And he said it's a lot of rubbish. This is Eddie Obengo, I get a lot of my learning from. He says it's rubbish. And the reason it's rubbish is, and if you think, I'm telling you the extra bit here, because if you know anyone who's wears orthotics, it might be good for them. If you think about a bridge, an archback bridge, sometimes you see them and they've got a sign up saying weak bridge, and they've propped it up underneath with scaffolding. If you think about that, you've got a weak bridge, like your arch of your foot, you've got some scaffolding holding it in place, and you've got trucks going over it still. What's going to happen to the bridge?
It will get weaker.
It'll get weaker. And yet we put these things in our shoes to hold ourselves up when we've got a weak arch. It's mental. And all the professionals will tell you to wear orthotics. So partly I'm telling you this because it's useful, and partly it's to always challenge the narrative, because just question yourself. And it made perfect sense that the orthotic was causing more damage longer term and making my arches weaker and weaker. And it turned out there's some really simple exercises you can do to build your arches up. And those are, so again, if you know anyone, this is really useful, just doing toe scrunches on a bath mat for a couple of minutes twice a day. You just put your foot on and scrunch a towel underneath your toes, and it builds natural arches. So I don't have flat feet anymore. So it took me, like, I'm not going to tell you how many decades, but too many to actually have normal feet. And all it needed was these 2 times a day, 2-minute exercises. So the arch bit is less important to this, but the important bit here is, how do you create a habit where you're doing these exercises every day, twice a day, all the time? And we all know we all say, I'm going to go for what you say you're going to go for a daily lunchtime walk, and then a meeting will creep in, and then you'll miss it. It's really hard to get things in as an automated habit, so you do it without thinking about it. And for things like this, you want to do that. You want it to just happen without having to remember to do it. Otherwise, you're lying in bed at night and you're thinking, oh, I forgot to do it again, and you don't want to get out of bed into the cold to do it. So what did I do? I use this tool. It's based on BJ Fogg. If anyone knows BJ Fogg, Tiny Habits. I know people talk about Atomic Habits. I've not read it, but it's probably, I think it's similar kind of thinking. First thing, so if you've got something you want to do, so Manjula, your lunchtime walk, Sarah, not eating the biscuits, what you're going to replace it with. So think about something you'll replace it with, because it'll be much easier to get rid of than trying to stop doing it. What is the outcome you want to achieve? So mine was to be able to wear normal shoes. It's not a big thing, but I'd never, it got worse and worse and worse. So think of the outcome that you want to achieve. So I wanted to have natural arches so I could wear normal shoes and just have less pain in general. It wasn't just the shoes, it was actually the pain that came with it. Then you need to think about how motivated you are to do it. A lot of the times we try and do something new, we're not really that motivated. It's something we think we should do because we think we should do it, like giving up alcohol for the month or giving up the biscuits, but we're not really motivated to do it. So you need a level of motivation. If you're not motivated to do it, you might want to think about coming at it from a different angle. So it might be not about not eating the biscuits, it might be about losing a bit of weight or something. So you need a motivation to make the change happen. So make sure you're motivated by it. So in this instance, I was very motivated because again, the pain. Then think about how difficult is this thing to do. Sometimes we set ourselves really, really huge challenges. I'm going to, I don't know, lose 4 stone by the end of the year. It's a massive challenge. So think about how hard it is to do 1 to 5. If it's a 1 and easy, then leave it as it is. If you're getting into this is a really difficult thing to do, I want to go on stage and play the guitar at the year end, at the Christmas concert next year, and you've never touched a guitar. Don't start with that as the goal, because it's too big and you'll give up because the failure will just get in the way. So chunk it down into something manageable. Do you know, if you are trying to stop drinking, for example, just think, I'm just going to stop. I'm just going to not drink this weekend. And then extend it to 7 days, and then extend it to 2 weeks. So chunk it down into something that is achievable, because otherwise, if you fail quite early, and you possibly will, if it's a massively big thing, you might stop. So it needs to be something that you can achieve. And if you fail it, start again. Has anyone done Couch 5K? So that's chunked out, you know, in the first week, it doesn't say, right, run 5K and see how long it takes you. It's like going for a walk 2 or 3 times a week. So it's chunked into manageable steps. And if you miss one, or if you fail to do it, you just start again. You just do it again. You don't beat yourself up. So you just work yourself up to the end bit in chunks. So make sure it's a manageable chunk that you think you can achieve. And that all going to the gym 3 times a week from January, that's why it mostly fails. Whereas if you say, I'm going to go out and walk 3 times a week, you might get there, because that's a bit more possible. So make sure it's something you can actually do within the time frames that you have, and it is an achievable task. So for me, it was quite an easy task. Then you write down the behavior you want to do. So for me, this was doing the toe mat exercises twice a day for 2 minutes. So what is the behavior you want to do? I want to go for the walk every day. And Manjula, it might be that you miss out the lunchtime bit, because the lunchtime bit might be the bit that gets in the way. So it's just, I want to go out for 20 minutes a day and have a walk, despite the weather. So write down the behavior that you want to achieve. Okay, so mine's my mat scrunches. And this is the really important bit. You need a trigger, because remembering to do it is the hardest bit, because it's not part of your brain yet. So you're needing to remember to do it. And it doesn't matter how many sticky notes you put on your wall, how many things you put in your diary, you will forget to do it. If you have a trigger, so something you already automatically do, attach it to that. So BJ Fogg, who this comes from, he wanted to do press-ups every day. And so his trigger was putting on his socks. He knew that every day he would put on his socks in the morning, and that was the trigger to do the press-ups. You won't always remember to do it, but if you're already doing something, when I put the kettle on, whatever it is, something you already automatically do, it's already part of your brain's automatic processing, and attach it to that, it's much, much easier to do.
How about for stopping doing, Tammy? So if I want to not reach for the biscuit tin, like I'm thinking there isn't, my worst time is when I'm going back for lunch. I've already had lunch, I've had plenty to eat, and with my cup of tea, go back to my desk, I reach my biscuit tin, and I don't want to reach for the biscuit tin in terms of the trigger there.
So it might be that you replace the biscuit tin with something else.
So yeah, because I say I've just eaten. I just want to walk back to my desk ideally and walk past the biscuit tin.
Yeah. So if you if that's when you're doing it, just move the biscuit tin and replace it with something else, because it will trigger you.
Okay.
You might not eat the apple or the nuts that you've set there instead, But
make
if
it
the
hard.
biscuit tin's not there, you've got to consciously then go to the biscuit tin.
Yeah.
So it's replacing that thing that's automated. If you want, I know quite a few people who have tried to reduce how much they drink. And again, abstinence, it's quite easy. You've had a rough day at work. There's a bottle of wine in the fridge. A glass of wine is not going to harm you. It's a habit. You do. If you replace the bottle of wine with a non-alcoholic bottle of wine, it doesn't taste as nice. But instead of trying to stop the drinking, you're replacing the wine with something else. It might be a non-alcoholic beer. And it weans you off the habit, because you're much less likely to go, I've had a really rough day. Do you know what I deserve right now? A glass of non-alcoholic wine. Because it's not as good. It doesn't have the same impact. But it weans you off that automatically doing the bad thing that you're doing without really consciously thinking. Because when we do that, we don't sit and go, oh, it's a weekday and I really shouldn't, we'll beat ourselves up. We might do that. But it's what you're doing is replacing that automatic reach out. So if you can move the biscuit tin and replace it with something else, if you then still want the biscuit, you're going to have to consciously decide to do that. And that's fine. It's not but don't beat yourself up for it. But if you replace it with something else, over time your hand will just automatically reach for a handful of nuts or a bunch of grapes or whatever it is, and then and then that'll start to wean you off the biscuit thing, and then you might then have a grape habit, but it's a bit more unlikely. So the trigger for me, what do you do 2 minutes a day, twice a day? In the bathroom? Clean your teeth. So when I'm cleaning my teeth, I do my mat scrunches because I'm already standing on a bath mat. So make it as easy as you can, because the easier it is, the easier it is to remember to do it. And the thing is, when you first start doing it, you will have to remember to do it. I'm talking about alcohol quite a lot. Everyone's talking about dry January. I'm not doing it. But I'm also not reaching for the wine every day. But the easier it is to do with something that's already sort of similar, the more likely you are to remember to do it. And then the second biggest thing you need to do is celebrate. So don't beat yourself up if you don't do it, but celebrate when you do it. And there's 2 levels of celebration. The first is celebrating, rewarding yourself for doing the thing. It might just be a visual high five in the bathroom mirror. But if you celebrate it, your brain thinks this is a good thing. And when it thinks this is a good thing, it helps lay down better neural pathways. So it builds up the new connections more quickly because it likes celebration. This is a good thing and I want more of this, so I'm going to make sure I remember to do more of this. So have a little daily celebration if it's a daily thing. But also have a goal celebration. When you've reached that outcome, which might be a year from now, how are you going to properly celebrate? What is that thing you're going to treat yourself with? Me, I was obviously going to go to a shoe shop and buy loads of new boots that I couldn't wear before. That was a rip, because that helps motivate. I'm going to buy myself a new guitar, whatever it is. Make sure you have a overall celebration, what you're going to do when you get there. But the more you celebrate, even if it's just going, well done you've done it again, that's the 5th day in a row, all of that releases all the good dopamine type stuff in your brain, which helps to lay down the neural pathway. The quicker you do that, the stronger it gets, the more automated it becomes. And so you're not thinking about it. So there is a little tool called Habits. It's based on BJ Fogg's. There's sort of theories out there that you need to do something for 12 weeks. I'm not sure that's scientifically proven, but it's, it is a longer haul. It's not going to happen instantly. But if you write down the outcome you want, you make sure you motivate, and you don't have to think about how you can motivate. What other way you take. What's your ability, easy or hard? And if it's really hard, you need to manage things. The first week is just walking.
I'm struggling to hear. I don't know if it's my internet connection or is anyone else?
Is it me?
I don't know.
Just a sec. I should be on.
Me as well. So
yeah, it's a bit glitchy.
I'm on the best. Let me put my hub
It's
in there.
actually just got better.
Did that improve it?
Yeah.
I've just
Yeah.
moved. Yeah, I've moved to a rural bit of Scotland, and I'm just working out where to stick the hub. So, thank you for that, and sorry for the glitchiness. Hopefully, that will hold out a little bit better. So, what is the outcome you're trying to achieve? How motivated are you? And you do need a level of motivation. So what will motivate you? And it might be that how you're going to celebrate that motivates you. The new guitar, the new pair of shoes, whatever it is, that might be the motivator. So make sure you've got a good end point that you'll treat yourself with. How difficult is it? And if it's a difficult one, break it into chunks. If it's learning the guitar to play at the Christmas party next year, you know, this week I'm just going to learn the G chord, or I'm going to learn to read a bit of music. So break it into a chunk. What's the trigger? What is going to trigger? What are you going to do before it just happens? When I go and put the kettle on, I'm going to go out for a walk. When I put my soup on to warm up, I'm going to go out for my walk. Whatever it is, have a trigger that you're already doing and don't think about, because it will stop to trigger you to remember the thing. And then write down the phrase, every time I will know I'm succeeding and I will celebrate by. So every time I clean my teeth, I'll snap for 2 minutes. I'll know I'm succeeding because I'll start to form, and I will celebrate checking how much arches have formed and start looking in shoe shops and putting things in my basket to order in 6 months' time. Here's the trigger, the real key trigger, because that's the thing that will remind you to do it. Because however much we write things down and say we're going to do something, life takes over and we forget. Work gets in the way, meetings are back to back, all of that. So make sure you have a trigger, and if it's a replacing thing, replace it with something rather than just trying to stop it if you're struggling. So move the thing, make it harder to do the automated thing and replace it with something else. So every time I clean my teeth, I'm going to scrunch my feet on the bath mat. I'm happy to, well, I'll pop this somewhere, this tool somewhere, but yeah, we'll send it out. We'll send it out to you tomorrow if it would be useful. There is a BJ Fogg little thing you can do where you can sign up and they sort of remind you every day if you need. So if you need a bit of reminding of it, but the best thing to do is to find that trigger. So Christina, you've put in SodaStream. Yeah, bubbles, refreshing, not missing the gin. It's just a simple switch like that. You can also, I shouldn't tell you this, but you can actually bubble up non-alcoholic wine, and it's actually quite refreshing. This is again making me sound like I have an alcohol problem. I don't. I just like experimenting. But be careful because it can explode. So that is how to change things. So whether it is your personal stuff or whether it's changing how you run meetings, every time I have a team meeting, I'm going to do a hopes and fears. I know I'm succeeding because people are getting more comfortable sharing their fears, and we will celebrate by having team meetings that only last 20 minutes instead of 3 hours, and everybody's happy. It works for everything. So I'm going to pause there and ask you guys to share if anyone did it or if anyone's got any questions. I would love to hear from you around habits and what you've learnt, how you might use it, what you've come up with. Who would like to go first?
I can go. I mean, I think the key piece takeaway for me, which is one that I think everyone knows, but it's harder to do, is that bite-sized chunks. So breaking it down into bite-sized chunks and then celebrate when you achieve some of those little things and then go again.
Yeah, brilliant reflection. Celebrate when you've done it. Don't beat yourself up if you don't do it. Just go, tomorrow's another day, I'll do it tomorrow. But celebrate when you do it. If you beat yourself up for not doing it, you're starting to get a negative emotion attached to it, and we want to avoid that. So brilliant, thanks, Sam.
I I used to think that I think similar. So it was from the Atomic Habits thing. It was called habit stacking. So I'd set myself last year a couple of goals. One was around doing more exercise and going out and walking, so similar to somebody else on the call, which I wasn't very motivated to do. And the other one was around sort of reading more and sort of getting into more books, which I do like doing. So I decided to sort of make it a bit of a conditional thing. So I actually switched to listening to audiobooks, but I would only let myself listen to the audiobooks when I went out for a walk. So I wasn't allowed to listen to them unless I went for the walk. And because I was motivated to listen to the books more than I was to go for a walk, it did make a big difference.
Yeah, brilliant. So that is multitasking that works and a new habit. So lots to celebrate because you're getting to do the things you like to do and getting the exercise in. So brilliant. And again, it's like chunking things down a little bit, isn't it? Because again, if it's something we're not motivated to do, but we think we should do it for our health, it's even harder to do. So tying it in with something that we already enjoy and chunking it down in smaller chunks can really help do that. Brilliant. I've not heard the habit stacking thing, but yeah, absolutely makes sense.
Tammy, I generally think that writing things down makes them more likely to be done.
Yeah.
So even though, and I know this, but I haven't written this particular goal down, and so I'm going to actually, I've written it down now, but I'm now going to put it somewhere I can see it and remind myself that's my goal. So it's like maybe that's on the cupboard by the biscuit tin to remind myself of that, so that I've got that in my face rather than when I conveniently forget and push that to the back of my mind. But I think just the act of writing that down and having it all, sharing it makes it stronger, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So the more writing it down, you get the muscle memory. Saying it, telling other people, it starts to be a thing that you've already. And if you can say it in the future tense, it's even more strong. So instead of saying I'm going to stop eating biscuits, you tell the story of when you've stopped eating the biscuits. I only have biscuits on the weekend, or I only have biscuits occasionally. I've lost my sweet tooth. You start to live the future. So describe it how you wanted that outcome, how you want it to be in that moment. It starts to tell your brain that this is you now, if that makes sense. So it's giving your brain more data about that future piece. And just, move those biscuits so that if you want one, you've got to get a stool to get on top of the cupboards. Reach into the loft.
Absolutely.
But when I reach
buy the biscuits, I'm in charge of the shopping list. I can control
you just
that.
stop buying them. But then it's like if you might still start reaching for other things, so it's shifting that. You can do that to a point and that might work, but if you find that's not working, then
the wine bottle instead at lunchtime, that's not going to work, is it?
But if you write whenever this is what I'll do and this is how I'll celebrate, can really, really help. Brilliant. Thank you. So we're all going to do lots of push-ups and go for the non-alcoholic wine and get rid of the gin. What else are we doing?
Can I ask something?
What was that?
I just wanted to ask a question. It's about changing. In the long term. When you get rid of your old habits and change, but keeping that achievement for so long is quite difficult. How you keep yours, or the changes that require long-term attempts, how you keep yourself motivated and stop yourself from going back to the old habits you got rid of.
So the trick here is that what you're doing with this process is you're making it automatic. So you're building up the neural wiring that says every time I put my socks on, I'm going to do 10 press-ups, and you do it without thinking about it. So you've then got to consciously not do it. You've got to consciously go, I'm not going to do my feet on the carpet today. I'm going to reach up for the biscuit barrel, which is on the top shelf. So it doesn't stop you going back, but there's more effort to go back and do the thing once you've replaced it with something else, because it's automatic. And your brain will do as much automatic processing as possible because it saves energy. That's why Steve Jobs wore the same clothes every day. It was one less decision he had to make and it was more energy I had for doing his, you know, people think it's a bit weird, but actually just got out of bed and automatically put on the same clothes. Whereas most of us will look through the wardrobe and we're like, oh, what colour do I want? You know, and even if we've probably got the same clothes but in different colours, we still spend brain energy thinking about what we're going to wear. So, and you've only got so much energy and processing that your brain can do in a day. So this is why this can really work, because it becomes automated, so you're not thinking about it. So to go back on it means you have to think and consciously choose not to do it and to do the old things. Does that make sense?
Tammy, can you suggest to me a good way I can sort of switch roles? I find that I do a lot of different things. So 1 minute I'm doing the marketing and so I'm like CEO or marketeer or whatever. And then next minute I've got to get full on with putting on a high vis and going out and tramping around in the, you know, and as CEO, I'm like, oh, maybe I'll do the tramping around in the cold like next week or something. And like how can
So
I,
are you
it's
reacting
almost like
to
switching mindset, you know, how, you know, from going to, from sort of planning to action. Is there a way that you can suggest to do that? I know it's slightly different. I mean, I've already got like put the kettle on and I'll do my squats. I get that.
yeah. And is this you reacting to things, or not, you know, just trying to also almost multitask but in different roles?
No, it's switching from being sort of desk bound to being operational, if you like.
And what is it you want to happen?
I suppose it's going from CEO directional, like planning and stuff like that, to actually just getting on and doing the stuff. So, you know, if I had somebody to direct, you know, I need to direct myself to be the worker rather than the boss.
But I'm not sure what I get that you're doing both roles, but I'm not sure what outcome you're trying to achieve. What's it? What once you've done this thing, what is it? What would be different?
I guess it's just switching gears for me from the planning stage of doing stuff online physically, you know, doing stuff, but it's actually doing the physical things, you know, being out in. And
so is it switching your mind?
It's almost like to me, there's, you have a sort of planning and thinking about it kind of thing, and then there's the doing of it, you know, the hard graft, you know, the doing without thinking kind of thing. And I find it hard to switch between those two, you know, without constantly re-examining what you're doing as you're doing it.
So it's switching your brain
deeper than
yeah. So if it's switching your brain from one role to another more easily, I would do so. It's something around, for me, I would think whenever I reach for my high vis jacket, I'm going to take 10 minutes and just switch into the different role, whatever that role is. So maybe just having that time to, I don't know if that's the right thing or if that's what you meant. I have a thing where if I'm doing a keynote presentation, and especially if I've been talking to people before, and you know, you're at a conference and you're doing all the engaging, I give myself 10 minutes. I go and do my breathing to get my nervous. It's not that I'm nervous, but you want to be really calm. So I do my physiological side to get the nervous system in the right state. And then I change my head. So I sort of, if you remember Wurzel Gummidge, if you know Wurzel Gummidge, if you're old enough, it's like I put on my acting head.
Yes.
And so it's just a physical switch in my brain. It's like, I'm not me. That's like, oh, what do I know? And why am I standing up here telling people? It's like, okay, I'm the presenter. I'm the storyteller. I'm the actor. And I just have, and the more you do that, the easier and quicker it is to do. So whenever I'm going to do a presentation, I spend a couple of minutes and I go, right, I'm not me as I am at home just now. I'm this presenter, storyteller, going on stage, and it just shifts your brain into that mode.
Mm.
And then you can be that person. It's almost like you're acting when you're doing the presentation type stuff, but it just shifts the mindset a little bit. But it's making a habit of that. So whenever I reach for my high-vis jacket, I'm going to think about what role am I moving into, and then it helps your brain to switch into that mode of thinking.
It's a bit like going for a run. Once you're on the run or whatever, you go for a swim, you really enjoy it, but you maybe don't feel like doing it.
Yeah.
To start with.
Yeah.
So think of the outcome. You will feel better. You will get the work done. Yeah.
Absolutely. And sometimes I don't feel like going for a run, but I got into a phase of not feeling like going for my run, so I'd put my running leggings on when I got out of bed. So that's another good one. When I get out of bed, I'm just going to put my running leggings on. And even if you get to 6 o'clock at night and you've had a full-on day, there's no point getting changed until you've used them. So it makes me go out. And I think even if I only go around the block and it only takes 10 minutes, I'm dressed for it. And then once you're out, you start running more. So it's just those little tweaks that can shift your mindset. It's really easy to say, oh, it's cold and dark and I'd need to get changed. I'm just going to go and have a bath. But if you're already dressed for a run, you just say, I'm just going to go around the block. And then you end up, some of your best runs could be like that. So it's just those little things in place that will trigger you to think differently. So switching your head from a strategic to operational can really work, but you need to take that time to do that switch.
Thank you.
Oh, brilliant. I'll have a look at that, Helen. Thank you. So if you want to know more, do get in touch. I do have the course starting next week if anyone's interested. I've got one place left, so and I'd even give you a discount if you ask nicely. Did any of our fears come true? Well, most of us have had some thought about implementing it. Was it a good use of time? Have you wasted your time? We've all met each other. Have you got some new ideas, bit inspired, know how to replace some bad habits and some actions to get on and do? Brilliant. I'm going to I can see some thumbs there. So thank you for coming along. The next one is in 2 weeks, I think. Aisha's here, she keeps me straight. We're going to be looking at unpacking the hidden reasons behind pushback. So if you've got people who are always pushing back, I'll give you some top tips of how to shift them before they've even pushed back. So please do join me in 2 weeks, same time. Any questions, please get in touch. Let me know if you want to book time in for a quick chat. Please drop time in my calendar. And if anyone is interested in the course, I will be running it again in a few weeks, but this is going to be a really interesting cohort. We're going global with this one, so I think there's going to be some really good peer-to-peer learning. So do get in touch, and I shall see you next time.
Brilliant. Thanks, Tammy. Thanks all.
Thanks all.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, how you doing?
Well, I've been better.
I don't have long. I've got a 4 o'clock. But how's any luck on the job front?
No, and it looks like 2025 won't be any better.
Oh dear, so, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it's really hard if you've got 10,000 public servants out of work in the city and you live in the city, so that makes things really, really complicated.
Yeah.
But yeah. However, I'm learning lots of things, so by the time I get a job, I'll also be ready. So anyway, it was a lovely session. Thank you.
Okay, and you, thanks for coming. I'll speak to you soon. Bye.
Bye.